Hiya. So I wanted to talk about something that I've been thinking of recently to do with the crux of flat Earth, conspiracies, medicine things, all the different things that I've been mentioning on this pursuit of the truth. And the issue of trust. Now, there will be people who won't believe in flat Earth, or they won't believe in 9/11 being a conspiracy, or I shouldn't use that word actually, 9/11 being an inside job. And all these things is because they believe in the system that they live in. They don't question it at all. Like me, I didn't question a lot of these things. I just watch the news and you just believe it. You don't think that you need to question it because, that's the whole point of news, is giving you the news of truthfully. But the problem is when you do actually look into it, you find all these holes and things that don't make sense. And then the thing is, once you start looking at different things, you start, and especially when you go to flat Earth, your mind is open a lot more. You start to think about all the things, slowly as time goes on. Like I've been, I haven't had a plan. I haven't been sort of searching these things. They've just come up. And then I've, like in normal life, and then you think, well, wait a minute. And then you start to question everything. And that's where you realise that, or I realise now, it's to do with trust. It's like, who's it on, I think it was Harry Growler's video about Nathan Oakley's video about questioning the logical fallacy of authority. I can't remember the actual title now, but yeah. And I put a comment about it. Authority per se may not be a problem, but it's the trust issue now that we have, because we've seen, and each of us, in whether you believe in flat Earth, whether you believe in 9/11 as an inside job, or whatever you believe, in your life, even if you still believe in the system. Say, look at politics, look at politicians, things that that the news actually will tell you is factually true, like about Tricky Dicky or the war in Iraq and etc. Where the system actually does report the truth on those matters, that we have seen that there is issues where people have been lied to, where they've stood in front of us, told us barefaced lies. Everyone thought it was truth, and then later you find out it was a lie. There's lots of examples of that throughout history. We all know those things take place because humans lie and they deceive themselves and each other. So if you just look at those things, to know that this type of thing does take place, even if you can't believe in flat Earth or 9/11 being an inside job, or medicine maybe not being as good for you as it is, and food being carcinogenic, the idea of us being one species and all that kind of thing, it all comes down to trust. And that's what I'm seeing now. And the problem is with that is you don't then know who to believe. Like I was listening to Rebecca's Way and Flat Earth Dave, or was it Dave Flat Earth, whichever way it is, on YouTube, and they were talking about meat being carcinogenic and all processed meat being carcinogenic. And the problem is with all these studies, you get studies each way, and that's another problem. And that's why it's very difficult to trust things, because in the life that we live in now, you can have scientists, specialists, professionals, whatever you want to call them. One of them will do a study, and then another person will do a study, and these studies will contradict each other. Now that's a big problem about humanity. That's why it's very difficult for us to believe anything, because how is that possible? If you study meat, and one person says it's carcinogenic, it can give you cancer, and then another person says, no, it's good for you, it's got protein in it, it won't give you cancer. Now, one of them may be sponsored by vegans, one of them may be sponsored by the meat industry. That's another problem. There's no objectivity, there's no independence on these things. Anyone can do a study, and then the thing is, you've got to question is, if that's the case, if they do a study and it comes beneficial to them, and the other person does a study and it's beneficial to them, then you've got to say, well, wait a minute, that can't be right. Or is it just to do with statistics, picking right things and controlling the environment? But that's the problem. We live in a world where we allow that to happen. We're being lied to. Even if you don't believe in these other things, you must know that, surely. And that's what makes us able to not know what's really going on. We're not able to discern the truth because the information we're given, you can pick whichever. You can have confirmation bias. It's like, I know that they do say that red meat can be carcinogenic. I know even the NHS now says that. But the problem is, I know there's lots of people that eat meat and they're perfectly fine, they don't get cancer, and there's some people that do get cancer. Linda McCartney was a vegetarian. She got cancer. So I don't know whether it's as clear cut as those things. The problem is when they do these tests, because we live a multifaceted life, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact things. Maybe it was a bit of meat that she had previously before she was a vegetarian. I don't know how long she was a vegetarian for, but it was a very long time. Like Paul McCartney was a vegetarian now after meeting her, so I assume he was vegetarian for less of the time, but he didn't get cancer. So is it to do with, certain people's DNA are affected by other things? That's where, it's like people who smoke. You get some people, my grandfather smoked a pipe, and, he lived a very long life. But you get some people that will smoke and then they die a very young life. So maybe the thing is we don't know what affects us because each individual is different, and one person can do one thing, one can do another. So that's where it becomes very grey when people say, well, this thing will do this. And it makes you, because then you see that that's the big problem. We should, in this day and age, and this is the problem, we should in this day and age be able to trust each other. If you say you're going to be a specialist, if you're going to do an independent study, which all studies really should be independent, and you should be able to go with the results that you get, not change them or make them come out the way you want them. We should be able to trust people to actually do a proper study and actually find out things. But we know that's not how it works. Even if you look at, say, Brexit, the way that both sides argued their case didn't take it responsibly, had arguments like they were children, like they do when they're in their sessions, rather than actually thinking, what's actually best for everyone. Let's actually speak like human beings as adults and be responsible and actually tell the truth. If there's something that we think is positive, it's positive. But if there's a negative, let's admit there's a negative, even if it goes against what we believe. But we won't do that as humans, and that's the problem. That's why it's easy for us to deceive ourselves and each other, because we have that. We don't care that one person will say red wine's good for you, the next person is red wine's bad for you. How is that possible? Come on. We're living in ignorance, willful ignorance really, despite being all these studies and research and scientists and professionals. Anyway, I've said enough now. Take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.